Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, the one who led the ruling that got rid of Roe v. Wade, he has said it is wrong for people to question the integrity of Supreme Court. He said that it's crossing a line. He said that today, y'all. The same day, the wife of Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, testified before the January 6th committee investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol. The same rabid Republican Ginni Thomas, who was active in trying to get the 2020 election overturned. The same Ginni Thomas, the same one who didn't just call Arizona, she called multiple states. The same Ginni Thomas that helped raise money and pay for buses to come on January 6th. And you actually want me to believe that Clarence did not know what his wife was doing? You've got to be outside your damn mind. And check this out. Congressman Bennie Thompson, the chair of the committee, was there for about an hour today. He said her trifling ass sat before the committee and said she still believes the election was stolen. And Alito wants to tell us it's crossing a line to question the integrity of the U.S. Supreme Court. Thomas was interviewed for more than 4 hours, interspersed with brief breaks. And again, Thompson said she answered some questions and said that if Thomas provided committee investigators with something of merit, it will be included in the panel's next public hearing. Really? Here's a statement her attorney, Mark Paoletta, made after she appeared before the committee. Earlier today, Ginni Thompson participated in a voluntary interview with the J6 committee. She was happy to cooperate with the committee to clear up the misconceptions about her activities surrounding the 2020 elections. She answered all of the committee's questions. As she has said from the outset, Mrs. Thomas had significant concerns about fraud and irregularities in the 2020 election, and as she told the committee, her minimal and mainstream activity focused on ensuring the reports of fraud and irregularities were investigated. Beyond that, she played no role in any events after the 2020 election results. As she wrote in a text to Mark Meadows at the time, she also condemned the violence on January 6th as she abhors violence on any side of the aisle. There we go with the any side. Yeah. Thomas became of interest after the publication of text messages she exchanged with Trump's former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and state lawmakers about overturning the election. Thomas and Meadows exchanged 29 text messages. In those messages, she urged him to fight for Trump and those seeking to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Thomas also contacted Arizona and Wisconsin state lawmakers to overturn Biden's victory. These insurrectionists are exactly who we thought they were. And I keep telling y'all, they're not done. They want to put people in office who are going to continue the BS that they are involved in. I just keep trying to explain that to people. I understand why people don't believe that, but I can guarantee you these thugs are not going away. They're going to continue to create as much mayhem as possible against the American people. Joining me right now, Dr. Greg Hart, Department of Afro-American Studies, Howard University. Dr. Nyambe Carter, Associate Professor, Associate Professor at Howard. Also, Jason Nichols, Senior Lecturer, African American Studies Department, University of Maryland, College Park. Sorry, Doc. So you left Howard. Where are you now?
I did. I'm at University of Maryland.
Got it. All right. Well, I see. They didn't tell me that. So when I saw Maryland, I was like, hold up, Jason there. I didn't realize both of y'all were at Maryland. So glad to have you both. This is, I want to run this here. This is an ad that Don Winslow he put up today, of course, very quickly, dealing with this crank, Ginni Thomas. I want to go ahead and play that. I'm going to go to the panel. Watch this.
When your husband is a Supreme Court judge, you get a lot of special privileges. I can do whatever I want, and no one can stop me. People are saying I broke federal and state laws, but when you're Clarence Thomas's wife, it just doesn't matter. They can't touch me. I tried to overthrow the government, and all I got is this silly little interview. No one is above the law? You will never see me testify under oath and on television. It's nice to have family friends like Liz Cheney. Thanks, Liz.
Now, Niamey, the reason Don took a shot at Liz Cheney there because she was very much involved in not wanting Ginni Thomas to come before this committee. For all of her anti-Trump stuff, she was quite protective of this MAGA Republican.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me, Roland. It's good to see my colleagues. Look, Ginni Thomas is in a rare position. She has supporters and protectors on all sides, not limited to her husband, also the very powerful Liz Cheney. And that's why we need to be careful about giving these Republicans, slaps on the back for doing the bare minimum, which is their job. I mean, at the end of the day, Liz Cheney is a conservative Republican. And while she might have thought January 6th went too far, she's not above covering and caping for someone like Ginni Thomas, which many have done for quite some time. I mean, she has been quite clear about her beliefs and has even put her money in the same place, yet she has really escaped scrutiny for many months. And it's pretty much been the case that she was given a red carpet to show up. And I'm sure there's nothing that's going to really come of this where Ginni Thomas is concerned. I mean, she's just going to sit there and pretend that she was just, a concerned citizen and not an actual provocateur. And that's exactly what she is.
It really does crack me up when I listen to these people, Jason, and they act as, I was just doing my American duty. I just sent a few text messages, a few emails. I don't really see what the big deal is.
The interesting thing about Ginni Thomas, I first of all, I don't buy any of that she believes the election was stolen. I'm not saying she's a genius, but she's clear that this election was free and fair. The problem is, I think she recognizes, as we all do, that the January 6th committee and their objective is to show that Trump and others knew this was a fair election and were trying to overturn it anyway. This is why they keep showing Bill Barr. They keep showing Cassidy Hutchinson and others who were in Trump's ear telling him, no, this is free, this is fair. All those guys from DOJ and from the White House legal team who were saying, no, you need to give this up. This is over. It was done. It was a free and fair election. I think that she is at the very least smart enough to recognize that this was a free and fair election that Joe Biden won, but she's trying to escape legal culpability by saying, look, I really believe this. There's no intent to do any harm because I really believed that this was an unfair election. I just don't believe that. I think she clearly knows, as we all do, especially now. But I think at the time she knew it was a fair election. And you have her she's insulated by all of these people within the power structure, and she gets to walk down the halls and smile the way we saw in that video.
Indeed. Look, folks have been really going after them. Here's another video, Greg, I want to play for you.
Ginni Thomas, the spouse of a sitting Supreme Court justice, tried to overturn the 2020 election where armed white supremacists under the direction of Trump invaded the Capitol and tried to hang the vice president, has agreed to testify.
Putting you under citizen's arrest!
The January 6th committee has been slow to call her out, I guess in deference to the Supreme Court, the same court that gives her husband Clarence and his hairy Coke can dominion over women's bodies. Ginni Thomas texted Meadows in January of 2021, urging him to undermine Biden's win and keep Trump in power. In Arizona and Wisconsin, she pushed the legislatures to throw out votes and declare Trump president.
Trump won
She then attended the January 6th insurrection. She's on the record declaring America to be in danger due to a deep state run by transsexual fascists.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Did I mention she's married to a Supreme Court justice, the only dissenting vote to investigate Trump's role in the insurrection? How the fuck is this okay? Ginni Thomas is like a drunk driver, and Clarence Thomas is like a car. And the American people, we're standing in the crosswalk.
Goddamn right.
I have a cocaine addiction.
Ginni Thomas,
Figured you'd get a kick out of that one, Greg.
That was hilarious, and it is good to see my colleagues. And Dr. C, you know, once you do years at HBCU and dog years, you earned retirement. So I'm glad you're still in PG. So at any rate, I'm glad to see you still in that wall. But yeah, I mean, you know, they're not fighting for democracy. They're fighting for a theocracy. He's a white Christian nationalist, or at least in Clarence Thomas's case, I suppose you could call him kind of a checkerboard Christian nationalist. But clearly, they don't give a damn about voting. I mean, and I love that video because, 8-1, the Supreme Court ordered the release of Mark Meadows', 2,320 text messages. The one dissenter, Clarence Thomas, because 29 of them were with his best friend. And I use that word best friend because one of those 29 texts that Ginni Thomas sent to the White House to Mark Meadows said, after Meadows characterized this as a battle between good and evil, there's the language, she replies, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Between that and the conversation with my best friend, I'm encouraged. Best friend, her husband. Clarence Thomas asked me to be off the Supreme Court if there were a rule of law in this country, but there isn't. John Roberts killed the rule of law with Citizens United in 2010. And he's been looking ever since like, we need to respect the court. Dude, you destroyed the court when you decided that corporations have unlimited speech and they began to really pump to put this theocracy in place. So Sam Alito, you mentioned Alito earlier, I would encourage folk to look at the New Yorker. Margaret Talbert wrote an excellent article on his plans for theocracy at the end of August in the New Yorker. Remember, Alito is the one that tried on the 28th of October to slow down allowing absentee ballots in Pennsylvania. And then on November the 6th, ordered any ballot that came into Pennsylvania after Election Day to be sequestered in case they could be thrown out. He did everything he could to stop the election of Joe Biden. But, you know, I only have so much sympathy for Joe Biden because Joe Biden threw Alita Hill under the bus. I'm old enough to remember 1991. But at any rate, I'm saying these people are fighting for a theocracy. They are fighting and they don't give a damn. And so it'll be interesting to see as these Proud Boy insurrectionists, or is it the Oath Keepers? I guess Oath Keepers are on trial using Reconstruction era legislation. That's the same statute that Bennie Thompson filed that federal lawsuit, Civil Rights Act of 1866, to say you all tried to overthrow the government. That's still good law in the books if there's a rule of law in this country, but that's really what's on trial, isn't it? The rule of law in this country.
Indeed, this is an ad that the Lincoln Project put together with regards to Ginni Thomas.
Justice Clarence Thomas is compromised. On January 19th, 2022, Thomas was the only Supreme Court justice willing to help Trump and his allies hide from justice over the January 6th insurrection. Thomas did not hide that he was willing to grant Trump's request for secrecy, but it wasn't just to protect Trump and his conspirators. It was to protect his wife, Ginni Thomas. A radical right-wing activist, Ginni Thomas has openly applauded rebellion in the past.
I think people are rebelling and there's a big tidal wave coming. I think the Democrats are pretty worried about what's coming.
And the lead up to January 6th was no different. Ginni Thomas used her direct line to Trump's White House to push for the overturning of a free and fair election, even attending the rally that would ultimately end in an attack on the U.S. Capitol. None of this would be known if Justice Thomas had gotten his way. The January 6th Commission can't do their job if one of the most powerful men in the country is using his seat to protect his best friend. Clarence Thomas must recuse himself because he took an oath to protect the Constitution, not his wife.
And Niambe, that right there is all we need to know. And the fact that the Supreme Court to this day has not created a code of ethics. This man is literally ruling on cases involving things his wife was involved in. The conflict of interest is extremely clear. It is a neon sign, LED light, damn near a sun ray coming down. That's what we're seeing.
Well, absolutely. And I think the thing about the Supreme Court is when we look to the Constitution, I mean, it's really designed with very little structure, right? You don't even have to be an attorney to be on the Supreme Court. I mean, and these are lifetime appointments. And that's why they're also dangerous, because we're stuck with these people for quite some time. And certainly they have no incentive to police themselves. And even if someone thought, this doesn't look right, Clarence, you might want to step off, no one has really pushed him on it. John Roberts certainly hasn't. I mean, for the reasons that Dr. Carr here talked about, but also because where's the pressure going to come from, right? They're supposed to be the court of last resort, and nobody's really questioning them about anything that they do. And no one's ever, or not moved with this court in particular, to push them off. I mean, we knew that Clarence Thomas was compromised even before this moment. Remember, Ginni Thomas was the same woman calling Anita Hill at her work phone 20 years past his hearings, telling her that she needed to apologize to her husband. So this woman has a history of harassment under her belt even before January 6th. And I'm just wondering, how far is this going to go? I mean, clearly the Supreme Court doesn't care about its own credibility, but certainly I think we have to think about as a nation what it is we want to do. Now, it's going to take a while because Congress doesn't also want to touch this branch, but there is nothing that doesn't, or that prevents, Congress from modifying the Constitution and modifying their duties as the court of last resort. Now, of course, that's pretty extreme and it's likely not to happen, but it is not as if we have nothing that we can do to make this branch be more accountable. We just haven't done it. And now, looking at them to do it for themselves, I really doubt that's going to happen. And certainly, we know the Republicans aren't going to ask for the court to be more accountable. And it started, I guess, as an idea that the court should be above the fray politically. But certainly they have put themselves into politics, and we should probably treat them more like politicians rather than lifetime officials.
Well, absolutely. And I fundamentally am against a Supreme Court justice having a lifetime appointment. I'm just against that. I mean, hey, fine, if you want to say 20-year terms, but Jesus, lifetime?
Nobody can be good at everything for all their life.
Like, are you serious? Again, Jason, and Biden doesn't want to go hard. It's not like, whatever that BS commission he had, whatever the recommendations, whatever.
Yeah, no, it's disappointing because Republicans are always willing to play hardball to the point where they were willing to literally storm the Capitol. Now, I don't think we should go to that extreme, but one of the things, there are many things on the table, of course, pushing Puerto Rico to become a state, potentially, if they don't want to be independent, which I'm probably more leaning towards independence. But if they want to be a state, bring Puerto Rico in and the District of Columbia. Maybe even, and these are some radical ideas, but breaking up California so that you get more senators in the Senate. Of course, court expansion in terms of the Supreme Court. You can expand the court. The court has had fewer members than 9 and more members than 9 several times throughout our history. And these were ideas that were being discussed with Joe Biden, and Joe Biden would kind of flirt with them. But once he got into his office, he didn't want to touch them. And my thing is, Joe, you're already unpopular. Like, go for it. Go balls to the wall. Like, go out and start taking some bold action to secure the future of the nation. And it doesn't seem like he's willing to consider any of that.
This is what we know, and I said this on ABC to Chris Christie's face, and I keep telling people this, Greg. The Republicans do not care about norms. They're not worried about, what will people think? They are about power, cementing control. And I just keep saying to all these people out here who are talking about just sitting your behind on the sidelines, understand they are coming after you. You can sit here and, I don't like this dim or this person. I'm telling you, what these folk have in store, if y'all thought The last Supreme Court term was crazy. Revoke Roe v. Wade. Wait until June 2023. Oh, y'all want to have a conversation? Watch what they do this term. These people, they have been planning this since Brown versus Board of Education, since the 1964 Civil Rights Act, 65 Voting Rights Act, 68 Fair Housing Act. They have been playing, and so I can't understand any progressive or liberal, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Well, they've been telling you what they were gonna do.
That's right.
They simply did it. And these folk didn't believe them, Greg.
No, I mean, they've been telling us what they're going to do since they drug us over here into this criminal enterprise. That's why I never use the word our or we when I talk about the United States of America. This system was set up with the original constitutional framework and federalism to do exactly what it is doing now. Now, sure, Washington and Madison and the rest of them, well, in addition to not ever being able to imagine that Lizzo was going to play his flute, James Madison never would have imagined, and that a black woman would give her permission to do it. Shout out to this Librarian of Congress. I just love that. But at any rate, James Madison never imagined that this criminal enterprise would take up from the Pacific to the Atlantic. But he set up a system so that even as it did, white minority rule is literally poured into the structure. So I think, Dr. Nichols, I think that is a fascinating possibility. And I think that it is an increasingly possible possibility as the demographics shift and as this thing fractures, because these white nationalists are going to overburden this federal structure. They've tried to break it several times. They tried to break it in the 1840s and 50s. I mean, y'all go read Dr. Carter's book, American Wild Black. She'll walk you through that whole thing. You walk them through it, Doc. I mean, Martin Delaney, I'm like, let's just get the hell out of here. Even as they come back and fight in the Civil War, but they tried to break it in the 1850s and 60s. They tried to break it again in the 1960s and 70s. They are not going to be satisfied until they break it, because what they don't seem to understand is that many people in this country and more people in this country are not going to concede to white nationalism in the name of, quote unquote, the soul of America. There is no we, there is no soul. And I for one, encourage them to keep it up. Because Sam Alito don't carry no weight in North Philly. He don't carry none in Southeast D.C. And he better have an armed guard out there at Supreme Court, because I'm not saying anything violent will happen to him, but there is no respect for the rule of law when there is not a basic humanity at the center of that concept. And all of world history teaches us that.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?